Hi, I'm Peter Capaldi. I play the Doctor, and you're watching EMS Productions.
Hello everybody and welcome along to today's video. After the recent news that we heard about Class being basically officially cancelled with the controller of BBC Three saying that it's not going to be commissioned for another series, so that is confirmation that we are never going to get another series of Class. So I thought that we've had that news, it's nearly a year since the first series aired, just wanted to kind of analyse exactly where did it all go wrong. I know this may sound a little bit over-dramatic, but to some degree I'd say it kind of was doomed from the start, simply because the concept wasn't that good, is the number one thing here. So Class was originally commissioned in October 2015, just sort of in the middle of, during this airing of Series 9. I remember the day well when we were all discussing what could it possibly be, this secret announcement coming at midnight and everything. Some people knowing and saying it's this, it's that and the other. And we find out that we're going to get this spin-off that's based in Coal Hill School but has no other links to Doctor Who, but is a spin-off. And from there I remember there were a lot of people kind of like, why are we doing this? This doesn't really make any sense. Because that's the key thing that worked with the previous two spin-offs, of course, Sheridan Adventures and Torchwood, was there was a major character who was popular from the main show that had been taken across to lead those shows in Captain Jack and Sarah Jane. And that's why they worked, because you had that major character leading that show forward. Whereas with Class, there was never any of that. It was literally just a school, a building which nobody really cares about, and then it wasn't even the same building in Class as what it was in Doctor Who, because apparently they'd moved schools, or just so they could get a better building. But even then, that link was essentially severed because it was a different building, it was just a name. Literally just the name was connecting the two shows. And so naturally that was not going to create much interest. The other issue was the sort of audience it was aimed at, because it was never really clear for a start. But it was supposed to be young adult, which is kind of late teens, early 20s, I think, something around there, was kind of what they were aiming at. But in reality, it wasn't a very big group, and it just wasn't very clear that that's who it was aimed for. And then because it wasn't aimed at kids, so you cut out a large section of the audience, because you've got to bear in mind, Doctor Who is a family show / kids show, so a lot of young people are going to be watching it, and you then make a spin-off for people that are going to shut out probably 70% of Doctor Who's audience, because anybody older, it's not going to appeal to them, who are like 30s onwards, it wouldn't really appeal to them, and anybody too young to watch it can't watch it. So it was kind of shutting out a huge amount of the Doctor Who fandom there and then, just by who it's targeted at. Now I know you can to some degree use that argument towards Torchwood as well, but I think the difference with Torchwood was it was made as an adult show. It wasn't made as a something in the middle kind of show, which is what Class seemed to be. They very much just said this is a show for adults, it's a no-no for kids kind of thing. And yeah, I've been through Torchwood before, it's a bit shaky to start off with, but it does sort of turn out fantastically. And of course you've got Captain Jack leading the way, which is always going to be a much sort of bigger driving force of the show than just a name of a school. So yeah, I think that's probably one of the key points, is the actual concept itself would have worked better as just a new TV show. It didn't need to have a link to Doctor Who, it didn't benefit at all from having a link to Doctor Who, other than Peter Capaldi turning up for 10 minutes. That's literally the only thing we got from it. So yeah, it would have been better off as just its own TV show, I think. Probably one of the other major sort of things that went wrong with the show, certainly once we got closer to the time of airing, was first off promotion for the show, and also the scheduling of the show, because of course we found this was sort of, originally it was announced to us all that it was happening around the time that BBC Three was being confirmed that it was going online only. So naturally you're thinking, that's not a great idea. Is Class going to be online only? Oh no, of course not, we're going to put it on TV as well, don't worry about it guys. Whereas in reality, that didn't happen. Well, it happened about 3 months later at about midnight on BBC Two, and it was like, no one is going to watch this. And the viewing figures were shocking for the TV version of it. Even the BBC Three online version, they were struggling for a few 100,000 viewers, which was really poor. I mean, even compared to Doctor Who, that's getting like 5-6 million. The viewing figures were just woeful. But a lot of it was down to the BBC's sort of decision on how to schedule it and promote it. Because yeah, putting it 3 months later on BBC One late at night, or BBC Two late at night, is not going to really help your show's viewing figures, as far as I'm concerned. Yes, I can understand why they wanted it. It was a BBC Three show, so they needed to put it online on BBC Three first, but I've seen other shows where it's gone on BBC Three and then they've repeated it the next Sunday or the next Saturday evening or something like that, rather than 3 months later, late at night on a Monday night. It was just kind of like they didn't really sort of care about the show anymore at that stage. It's kind of like, it's failed, but we've got to show it on TV, so we'll just chuck it wherever we can find, sort of thing. That's what it felt a bit like. And I also felt the actual promotion of the show probably wasn't the strongest. There wasn't a huge amount of kind of trailers or build-up or anything really until about a month before the show aired. That was about the first time we heard any information. There was barely even a social media presence until then about it. So it felt like everything was left a little bit late to really build up interest. I mean, there was a fair bit of hype those last couple of weeks before the show aired. There was trailers, reviews, lots of sort of behind-the-scenes clips and everything like that, lots of social media chatter and everything. So there was a fair bit of hype there at that stage. But I just don't think it built up over a long enough period for it to really kind of have an impact. And then probably I'd say the most important part was the show itself. The actual content of the show. That's what I always say. If the show's bad, no matter how well you promote it, it's not going to go very well. But if the show's great, it can usually break through some bad promotional scheduling. But unfortunately for Class, it just wasn't that good a show. I think there was some element at the time of being kind of swept up in the show and kind of just enjoying it because it's something Doctor Who related that's actually on TV for the first time in months and months. So maybe at the time, certainly me and a lot of other reviewers were maybe a bit more positive about the show than... In reality, when you step back and have a look at it, it really wasn't that great. I mean, the first big thing that probably long-term was a mistake was having Peter Capaldi in the first episode. Because it's just kind of like with a new show like that, you want to establish all the new characters, establish this world, and really get everything set up and show these as strong characters who can save the day, defeat the aliens and everything like that. But in this first episode, it's kind of, we're getting that build up, it's all going well, and then bam, they don't know what to do, the Doctor has to turn up and save the day kind of thing. It sort of feels like, well, they're not good enough to save the day, so the Doctor's got to come and do it on this occasion. But he's not going to stick around because he hasn't really got time to stick around for the rest of the series, even though that's what everybody actually wanted, was another series Doctor Who, not this Class spin-off, let's be honest. So I think that's where it probably undermined the sort of main cast and the show a little bit by having his appearance. I mean, it's still an enjoyable 10 minutes because it's Peter Capaldi, and he's just brilliant as always, but he would have been better off, I think, turning up in the finale, possibly, or something like that, to maybe save the day then. Let this lot of... I can kind of see the plot point behind it was the Doctor was basically setting up this group of 5 school kids, or well, not really kids, but like teenagers, who have got to go and defeat the aliens and fight the aliens together in a group kind of thing. And the Doctor was kind of setting them off on that challenge. So I can kind of see the point of having him there, but I think there would have been a better way of doing it without him featuring this early on in the series. And then past that, I think the episodes were just sort of very mixed in quality. You had some sort of reasonable ones. The opening story was pretty reasonable. I mean, then the sort of average ones like this Coach with a Dragon Tattoo and Night Visiting weren't very good. The two-parter that was all a bit over-dramatic, I quite enjoyed the drama of the first part and that kind of epic cliffhanger kind of thing, but in reality you look back and it wasn't a very good story. Sort of gay alien sex among other things, which was just a bit weird and unnecessary as far as I'm concerned. I mean, down the final few episodes it did get a little bit better, and obviously kind of concluding some of the plot arcs of the series about the whole Cabinet of Souls, Miss Quill, the sort of what's going on with her and everything, and then the Shadowkin kind of coming up at the end, who have been the main villain of the whole series. So there was kind of a nice bit of tying everything up at the end, but it's still... It just didn't feel that strong a series overall. It just wasn't that interesting, because I started rewatching it recently and I kind of just stopped. I watched the first 2 episodes and then I kind of planned to watch it and just haven't got around to it, because I'm just not really that fussed. I don't know quite why, I just didn't seem to buy into it that much again. So other than the first 2 episodes, I haven't watched them since they aired, basically, or I think I watched them once again, like the same week or something, but it certainly hasn't been since last year that I've watched any of the other episodes. So maybe I can't give that good opinion on it and that side of things, but certainly from what I remember from other people's comments and everything, the content just wasn't great. And I think that's where sometimes it's a mistake to just have the same person write every single episode, because of course Patrick Ness had never written TV before for a start, so that was always going to be a little bit, how's it going to work? You've never written a TV series, you've just written books, are you going to get the pacing right and everything? I don't think it was too bad, but it wasn't always perfect. But for him to then go and write all 8 episodes, I don't think was a very good idea. I think he would have been better off just kind of offloading a couple of episodes to somebody else to write, or a couple of other writers, just getting a bit more variety. Because naturally you're going to struggle for ideas to some degree when you're writing 8 individual episodes. To try and come up with, well, 6 or 7 different sort of plots and ideas is a challenge in that sort of setting. So it would have been better off, I think, to give it out to a couple of other writers just to kind of help him along a bit. So that's the main thing about the actual content of the show, which I don't think was the strongest. I mean, there was lots of unnecessary deaths as well and this kind of thing. It was probably trying to raise the stakes to some degree. And there was a little bit of an element of Torchwood Series 1 in the sort of, we're going to show it's not a kid's show by doing gay alien sex and killing lots of people in gory ways and all that kind of thing. There was a little element of that. It wasn't as bad as Torture Series 1, I would say, but on that side of things. But there's definitely an element of that. So I think that's pretty much all there is on the content. The other key point that I sort of could think of that maybe was where Class struggled a bit as well was their very odd take on how to create a fan base. So you may remember the whole concept of classmates way back when, last year, when essentially they brought together a load of fans and got them to kind of record short reviews of the episode and that kind of thing and put them into a sort of montage video after each episode had aired to kind of... And it was just kind of like, these are the classmates. Well, no, they're not. They're just fans of Doctor Who decided to watch the show, watch Class and review it. They're not instantly fans of Class and therefore classmates or anything like that. So it was just an odd way of doing things when they were trying to sort of create their own fan base without any fans and that sort of thing, and already come up with a name for a fan base that doesn't exist yet. And certainly those videos got some pretty negative sort of comments, lots of dislikes and everything like that on YouTube, so it was hardly a big hit on that side of things, but it was just a very odd way of doing things to try and create your own fan base when you just don't have one yet. Just for the first 3 or 4 episodes, just let people watch the show and let them form their own opinion and gain fans that way, rather than trying to, from episode 1, create this classmates concept and have lots of people reviewing the episode on your YouTube channel, just kind of as part of a supposed fan base. So I really don't think... I think that was also a major problem, was the way they tried to engage the fans. Obviously at times it was difficult to promote it on social media, certainly with the Doctor Who Twitter account, because it's not a kids show, and they know in theory there's a lot of kids following their Twitter account, for example. It was painful to read them always having to put warning, this content may not be suitable for young children or this kind of thing, because it's a young adult drama and it's not for kids, but we have to keep promoting it on the Doctor Who Twitter, but we have to put this caveat every time. It just was a bit sort of difficult. Well, they should have been better off just retweeting BBC Class's tweets rather than trying to tweet their own tweets about it and this kind of thing. So that was a struggle as well, along with all the sort of fan difficulties. So overall, I think it was just, unfortunately, the spin-off that nobody asked for, with poor promotion and scheduling. Realistically, the episodes themselves, the actual content wasn't that great. I mean, the main cast were really good. They were clearly really nice people as well, seeing lots of sort of during the filming when they'd go up and meet with fans and that kind of thing. Those sort of 4 main sort of school teenage characters were quite good. That was probably one of the strengths, was the actual characters themselves. Even if it did feel a bit like they all had to have some catastrophe behind their lives, as they'd all either sort of lost a parent or had a major drama in the past or something like that. None of them could be just normal. It was sort of they're defined by their generic character trait or something like that. So that let them down a little bit, but I think they were probably the strongest element of the show, where the episodes and the plots themselves maybe fell apart a little bit. And the fan base was a bit of a disaster as well. All the viewing figures were terrible, and that all kind of led to them deciding we don't need a new series of this. And so it has been essentially officially cancelled when the controller of BBC Three says it's not coming back. That's as close to official as you're going to get, I think. And I would be, extremely surprised if we did ever see it again on TV in any form. I wouldn't be surprised to see Big Finish pick it up, because Big Finish will flog anything for money, let's be honest. There's so many different ranges on there that they'll literally do anything. So I'm sure at some point there'll be some Class audio, Big Finish audios. Well, it certainly wouldn't surprise me, and probably with the main cast as well, because a lot of them, it doesn't seem, hasn't exactly gone on to a huge amount more in TV and film as far as I can see from their social media channels. I still look over them occasionally when I see them come up, and they're never them. It's never them on a new TV show or anything, it's just them partying or something. So they clearly haven't got much bigger as far as I can see, so they'll probably be happy to do some Big Finish audio. So if you like Class, I'm sure there'll be some Big Finish audios for you soon. But I think apart from that we're never going to see we're never going to hear anything from Class again. It probably could have done with a sort of crossover with the main show. Maybe if they had done an episode in Series 10 that could have linked to the main show. Well, it was a bit late by Series 10 to be fair, but at some point in Doctor Who before Class aired, it would have been good to have had an episode setting up Class. So almost if For Tonight We Might Die had been kind of changed into all sort of, what's the word? It probably would have been better if For Tonight We Might Die had been all sort of alterated into being a Doctor Who episode rather than the opening episode of Class, and then it could have been a sort of an episode within Doctor Who that set up the spin-off to come. It could have been one of those mid-series stories that's actually quite important, and then kind of at the end of it, sort of you can promote Class and say this new spin-off coming next year that's going to be amazing. Look, here's all the main characters. We've just seen them in this episode. it's all set up and ready to go. So I think maybe something like that would have worked better for the show than just kind of having it kind of start off its own back in that sense. I mean, some of the positives of Class were the soundtrack, and thank goodness we are going to be getting a soundtrack of Class. Blair Mowat the composer confirmed on Twitter a couple of weeks ago that we are going to, at some point between, I think he said November this year and May next year, quite a long range, but at some point then we are very likely going to get a soundtrack for Class. With all his favourite tracks on it, and certainly I think that was one of the stronger points, was the soundtrack. There was a lot of good tracks in there. I think Blair Mowat was a very good composer in that, and I wouldn't be disappointed to see him come and take over Doctor Who in the future, which is certainly the rumour at the moment that it might be him that's going to do that. And there is at least a soundtrack to look forward to. I mean, it's a bit depressing that we could get a Class soundtrack before the Doctor Who Series 9 soundtrack, because we haven't been waiting for that for very long. Okay, only 2 years. So that'd be a bit depressing, but it would still be nice to actually have a soundtrack of it, because it was rather unexpected, really. And so I think that's pretty much all I have to say on the demise of Class. Unfortunately, a lot of people did want it to work. Certainly there was an element of, it's a Doctor Who spin-off that we hadn't had in 5-6 years. And we really wanted it to work, we really wanted it to be good, but unfortunately it just didn't work out. And that also probably means, unfortunately, that we're unlikely to get another spin-off in the near future. I mean, I would have thought the BBC will allow Chris Chibnall a good series or two to kind of get into the role a bit, although it's rumoured at the moment that he's not going to be in there for that long anyway. He's only going to do 3 or 4 series, so there's not really enough time to kind of get a spin-off sorted out during that period. I don't know with that, but certainly realistically, I can't see another Doctor Who spin-off happening before 2020, minimum. If we even get one at all, I'm not sure at this stage. It just, after the disaster that was Class, I can't think, and the dwindling viewing figures, let's be honest, that Doctor Who has at the moment, I can't see it's one of their #1 priorities is to produce another spin-off for Doctor Who. So it means I guess we'll just have to wait for a new series of Doctor Who each year, rather than having another sort of 8 or 10 weeks plugged by a spin-off to the show, which was always a bit fun, and particularly back in the RTD era when the best part of half the year was covered by Whoniverse content, whether it had been Sarah Jane Adventures, Torchwood or Doctor Who. So that was a lovely time. But other than that, guys, thank you very much for watching this video and hearing some of my thoughts on what's gone wrong with Class. Do let me know in the comments below where you think it went wrong. Do you agree with me in these points, or do you think it was actually quite a good show, it maybe just wasn't the right time for it? I'd just love to hear some of your thoughts on Class, guys. But other than that, guys, thank you very much for watching this video. Remember to like it, subscribe if you're new here, and I'll see you again very, very soon for another video. Goodbye!